Hi guys, good evening. Here's another Last Epoch video, this time covering a little bit of news. Because sometime today, Judd, the game director of Last Epoch, I'm gonna take you through this, provide some thoughts, and that's gonna be it. So the whole message starts off with the actual numbers that they reached, 265,000, which is a very significant number. Right now they are still hovering around the 200k mark, which is great news and I think well deserved. The servers are holding up okay-ish. Western Europe is probably the worst out of all of the servers, it seems. A lot of other people seem to be fine, but EU West is a bit iffy still. Judd is primarily saying that of course the team has made a lot of backend improvements, a lot of server improvements, which makes a lot of sense. We've also seen them work and they've continuously provided updates. All in all, they're pretty much on top of it and the worst is over. So I think Judd thought, well, it's also then time to offer a little bit of perspective. But what's coming next? I think interesting question. At first, there will be more hotfixes. They've done a good job with that in the past. I have no real doubts that most of the bugs will be resolved. So that is what's coming up in the upcoming few weeks. Talking about these online services, we will be getting a sort of post-mortem. I'm not sure that's the entirely correct term to use, but post-accident write-up from the team indicating what went wrong. I'm very interested in that. I might just make another video as soon as that goes live. I am an IT architect myself, not really in games, but definitely in cloud and networking and that sort of thing for a massive company. So yeah, maybe I can offer some perspective in that sense. I'd be interested at the very least in reading it and yeah, looking forward to a post like that. But it's probably gonna take a few days, maybe a week or so. I think it's also cool that they do this. Then we go into the actual future content that Judd is talking about. This is sort of split into two parts. The first part is that he wants to emphasize that they're still acting on player feedback. Now there will be a lot of players, there will be a lot of feedback. So on the one hand, that is of course true. But on the other hand, yeah, they got so much feedback, they will always be acting no matter what they do on someone's feedback. So we'll just have to see how that pans out. This has always been true over the last 5 or so years that I've been involved with this game as a player and a content creator. They have definitely listened to feedback. These guys even changed the skill name and the workings of that skill thanks to a video that I made specifically about it. So they are receptive to feedback. You don't ever really know upfront which type of feedback though, so it remains a little bit of a crapshoot. What's not a crapshoot and what I think is much more interesting to talk about is the new 1.1 content that is coming in the next patch. That is likely 3 months away or so from now on. And this patch will introduce quite a few new things. One of them is mostly focused on endgame, in particular Pinnacle Bosses. Sounds fun. Pinnacle Bosses are mostly, from Path of Exile, I would say. There you have those actual Pinnacle boss fights. Shaper, Elder, Cirrus. Yeah, I'm just really interested to see what their take on that is going to be. There's one problem that Last Epoch has, in my opinion, when it comes to bosses, is that in the higher difficulties, they tend to be very rippy, and you have no actual portals or anything of the like. So Path of Exile, you have very difficult bosses, but you get 6 attempts. Which gives you actually a chance to learn those bosses. Last Epoch doesn't have that, at least not in the current state. So if you go into a dungeon, the tier 3, tier 4 Jura fights can be very challenging, but you don't really ever get the hang of it properly because every time you die, you have to run the entire dungeon again. So this sort of learning pattern isn't really there. And in PoE it is there and it's specifically designed around it. I think 11th hour games should also think about the improvements on that regard. Because I would really like a few attempts in a row on a boss, rather than having to run through an entire dungeon again. If they just put it somewhere with a key, that's probably fine. But if I have to spend 10 minutes to get to the boss, I'm getting annoyed real quick. So I hope they figure that out. I'm sure there's more content coming in 1.1, Judd doesn't get too specific, which makes sense. I mean, it's months away still, so we'll just have to see, but it's good to hear that the main focus for 1.1 is going to be endgame content. because that is one of the things that is most lacking currently in the game. It's, as I said before, it's a solid foundation, it's a good game, it's not that hard to sort of iterate on what is there. It is designed in a way that you can fairly easily add things to echoes, fairly easily add different types of echoes. A Pinnacle boss like this could just be an echo requirement with a key or something, right? They have tons of options there, and they will probably leverage those options. I mean, it is designed like this for a reason. Then Judd touches on the sentiment and the reviews, basically stating that the last Epoch game took a big hit on Steam reviews. I think the sort of critic reviews are not too bad, but the Steam reviews, yeah, dipped all the way to mixed overall score, even for half a day, I think. Right now it is probably back to 71-72%, and it will climb as long as the 1.1 launch is, you know, not similar in terms of issues. But yeah, the server issues have cost them quite dearly. They lost 15-ish%, maybe 20 on Steam, and yeah, that's painful. But that is the way it goes, unfortunately, and they'll just have to deal with it. So Judd's saying like, well, we're here to stay. And I think that's fair, because if you have not followed this game for the last 5 years like me, you may have seen other games that after launch like this turn into a different direction. I am like almost 100% sure this is not going to happen with 11th hour games. I would actually be incredibly surprised if they would do that and like walk away with the cash. No, it's not going to happen. Don't be too concerned about that. Yeah, and then the last point that he makes, I think it's interesting that he points this out specifically. I talked about this in my first impressions video about the controller support, stating that I didn't really feel it was full controller support, or I couldn't really, you know, tell what the difference was now between a couple of months ago when I also played with a controller. To me, it was pretty much the same. And I think more people felt that way because Judd is specifically addressing the controller, saying and acknowledging that he calls it panels, but I'm calling it menu navigation. It's just not great. And I don't know what the definition is of full controller support. You can play the entire game with a controller, sure, but it's not amazing. And I think they got that feedback. I think quite a few people gave that feedback. They may have had higher expectations because other ARPGs like Wolcen and Diablo 4 are, in my opinion, more playable with a controller. They have a better controller support. They are more simple games, that helps. So the menus, your average menu in Diablo 4 is not as complicated as your average menu in Last Epoch, but still, whatever the reasons may be, those games play a lot better with a controller. Last Epoch is fine as long as you don't have to navigate a bunch of menus. And yeah, to be honest, that is still a significant part of the game. Inventory management, stash management, skill trees, whatever. And it's workable, but it's not great. And then that's the end of the post. He just thanks us for sticking around, and we will, at least most of you. For now guys, that's all I wanted to share with you. Thanks for watching, I appreciate it. This weekend I'll talk a bit about another game that I have enjoyed recently quite a bit. I'll do a review of Deep Rock Galactic Survivors. If you haven't tried that, amazing game. That's it for now. Thanks so much for watching, I appreciate it, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye bye.